Hey, Star Wars fans and Rule of the Galaxy fans, it is Joe in the pilot seat of episode 191 of the Rule of the Galaxy podcast. We're going to have some fun tonight. Hit a little bit of Star Wars, just a little bit of fandom, a little bit of fun. We've got some of our regular co-hosts. We've got a surprise guest co-host tonight. And as always, you can follow us at Rule of the Galaxy SW on Twitter and Instagram. Follow us at just Rule of the Galaxy on Facebook and YouTube. We have a new link to a new site. We're not on Etsy anymore for our gear, but I will post on Twitter and possibly other social media outlets our new link for our merch, which Laura Burton's still creating it. She just switched off of Etsy, and we actually have an actual site where we're selling things, but I don't know the name of the link yet. Email us at ruleofthegalaxysw@gmail.com. Follow us on TikTok. DDoc, are you still doing TikTok?
Tell me. I have stuff lined up on it. I actually have stuff lined up to edit. It's just I don't know. I started off this new season on there, so yeah. Still follow us on there. Plenty of good content on it.
Rule of the Galaxy podcast on TikTok, and outside of that, chapter 191. You heard the man's voice right there. The ginger, the DIY guy himself. DDoc, how you doing, brother?
Doing good. It's we're going to the Super Bowl, so I'm feeling very good about it right now. It's the calm before the storm. I expected to be here, honestly, playing the 49ers. So here we are playing the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes' ankle looks kind of bummed. So I don't know. We'll see what 2 weeks will give him, but I don't know. I'm feeling pretty confident going into this game. I don't know. I might witness my second Super Bowl in my life. We'll see.
Wow.
I'll knock on wood right now. I'll be devastated, but I'm happy to be there.
You're living in the prime of your football life right here. And the Eagles have been the best team in the NFL all season long, best record, everything like that. So good luck to you. Even coming from a Steelers fan here, good luck to your Eagles. And we'll see where that goes. Our special guest tonight, who is a guy who's been with us a lot, and honestly, he must be really good for our show, because out of our top 10 shows of all time, he's in like 3 or 4 of them, and he's only been in like 5 or 6 shows overall. So he must be good. Mr. Steve Glosson, how are you, Steve?
So I've been in 5 or 6 shows, but I'm only in 3. There are only 3 or 4 of the episodes I was in the top 10. I got to get better. That's how I am. I got to get better. If I can't have all 5 or 6 in the top 10, what am I even doing? What, and it should go like this. It should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Like that should be really how it is.
Well,
all vying for that top spot. But I did see that, and that was really neat. I'm honored and thank you for having me, as always.
Well, we love having you on here again. To just backtrack, I mean, you were one of those guys that when Joey and I decided to do this, it was because we listened to you, Rebel Force Radio, my Star Wars story, Star Wars Report, and we were like, these guys are what we want to be in podcasts. We're not there yet, but we still love to have you on, because
these guys are what we want to be in podcast. And then there's Steve.
So I brought it up before the show. Geek Out Loud.
Mm-hmm.
You went through a little time there where you're like, hey, I'm gonna backtrack this. I'm gonna take a little air out of this, and maybe not do it all the time, or do these big shows, because I know you love doing the big honking shows.
Yep.
So you're back though. Every time I check my podcast, there's a new one out. You guys have been really rolling over there, and I've been enjoying them, because first of all, you tease Ryfin on pretty much every show you do now.
Glosson won't leave me alone. I don't know what Glosson's problem is. I love Glosson. I don't know why he gives me such a hard time. I love the guy.
But yeah, I mean, that was a pretty good impression of him, by the way.
My Ryfin leans heavy into like Rolf the dog from the Muppets. A little bit of Rolf, a little bit of Dexter Jetster from Attack of the Clones.
I'm not going to be able to get that Rolf thing out of my head now. I can see every time I hear him on a podcast. That's how I'm going to envision. You've been doing some great shows.
Yeah.
Not all Star Wars related. They've been
at all
just fandom related and fun story related. I mean, have you been enjoying that, getting back in the swing of things?
Well, yeah. a lot happened in my life in the past few years. When I moved to where I am now in the world, I had a network of podcasts, that I was actually trying to make a big go of it. And so I had a part-time job. And so I would come home and every night I was recording something. It was a cycle of recording, edit, a live show every night, big honking show in the afternoon, all kinds of stuff going on. And then slowly but surely things had to kind of fall away. Like I just could not devote time to everything. And then once I hit full-time job instead of part-time job, a lot of that changed. And I found that, basically what I've done is had to get back down to the basics of what it all started to be. And also what I learned I really enjoyed doing. And the Big Honkin' Show is something that was on radio that was kind of a send up in a lot of ways of news talk. It became kind of a send up of news talk, but also just me being goofy, having a good time, telling stories, playing music. And I knew I wanted to keep doing that, but I didn't know that I could maintain Big Honkin' Show and another podcast. And so I brought in the Big Honkin' Show, folded it into Geek Out Loud a little bit. I don't know if people are enjoying it or not. We do everything we do live, but there's no video to it because of my fat face. I mean, look at me. I look like a hut that just walked out of a Gamorrean buffet. So, but so now that you've brought it up and said something though, now to be like June before anything happens again with the show, you've mojoed me. You've mojoed me. Yeah, no, so I'll probably do something on Super Bowl Sunday just because I like to dream big and put myself up against things that I have no business going up against. But yeah, because I follow neither the Chiefs nor the Eagles. I really don't follow pro football at all. My football season ended when the Georgia Bulldogs went back-to-back national champions a few weeks ago. So that's when my football season ended.
Understood. You're in that part of the country when, the southeastern part of the country, college football is bigger than the NFL,
It really is. Well, I mean, when all of your teams are better than your NFL teams in the area, I mean, it's easy. When you've got Alabama, the Alabama Crimson Tide that could take on just about any NFL team and hang in there, if not win against some of them.
Yeah.
You're like, well, okay, we've got a pretty good thing going down here in the South. And then you look over in Atlanta and it's like, well, there's the Falcons. You just keep flying, keep flapping, dirty birds, keep flapping.
But they've got a beautiful new stadium.
Yeah, well, you know what? You can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still going to get out there and roll around the mud.
And they put a Chick-fil-A in it, and they play on Sundays. The Chick-fil-A is never open inside of their stadium.
Well, that's there for like other events and stuff because there's always something happening at Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
That's true. Has to be to pay for it, right?
There is.
That place empty.
Whether it's concerts or sporting events, it's always being used for something. So.
Well, good. Well, we've got our sports talk out of the way, I guess. So that's good. We'll we'll cheer for DDoc's Eagles this weekend, and I guess DDoc and I, we really do need to meet up at an Eagles Steelers game. We should have tried to plan that out in the past year or so, but you know what? We'll see in the next few years if we can put that together. It'd probably be best to meet in Pittsburgh, so that way it's halfway between you and I.
Yes. Yeah, and I've driven to Pittsburgh multiple times, so yeah, I'll be in on that.
Good. I like that idea. And Steve, I'm always good for going to Atlanta. So all you have to do is put out the invite. We could meet in Atlanta and go to something. I don't know.
Dude, come on down. I've got a couple of places I can take you, and we can just look at toys and stuff. So.
Well, you know what? Thank you for putting that segue together right there, Steve. Because I think we all saw that there were some new toys being released. Now, my son sent me a message and said, well, these are all nice, but we're not going to get them till 2025 or something like that, probably. And that could be a possibility. I don't know. But let's take a look real quick here and see. First of all, the Biker Scout helmet. I have not been a collector of the helmets, and I know there's some people that are, but the Biker Scout, the Scout Trooper was always one of my favorite characters. And when I was a kid and Return of the Jedi and those figures came out and you saw them on the Death Star when Vader and the Emperor were walking through, that one caught my eye right away. But what do you guys think about that new helmet there? Does it look good to you? Steve, do you collect anything like that? DDoc, I know, does the Lego versions of those things.
I don't do the helmets so much. My friend Lucas does. He'll snag a helmet here and there. It is interesting. I like the way it flips up. That's one of the things, and I don't know if that was ever intended to be something, and in the Return of the Jedi, but but I like the look of it when it flips up like that. And but no, that's nothing I ever have on my shelf. I don't have room for something like that.
Yeah.
And my
Yeah,
head's too big. My head's too big for those things.
Mine as well. I get it. DDoc, would you bench? I know you got the Mando helmet behind you.
Yeah.
But
I
you
have that
really
and
do the Lego. You do. Oh yeah, and you've got
First Order, Captain Cardinal, whoever the
Yeah,
hell he
yeah.
is. Yeah. I just thought it looked cool.
But you do more of the Lego helmets, right? I mean, you've been enjoying those.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I would buy all these Hasbro helmets because they make them so well. Like this Mando helmet is so well made. The inside of it, there's so much detail in it. Especially like you see the amount of detail on these and how just real they look. They look like the props from the movies, honestly, in the shows. And you think, well, I could buy a Black Series figure for $30, or I could buy, something that looks like a screen used helmet for $100 or $110. It's like, to me, it's a lot easier pill to swallow to buy one of these. That Scout Trooper helmet, it looks freaking awesome. Like that is like number one. Cause like I've written on my notes here, I'm in a collecting crisis now. Because I'm to the point now where it's like I'm few and far between. I have Legos that I've yet to build. I have figures that I don't even have up on the shelf because I don't have room now. Like I'm kind of like in a weird mode right now. But that Scout Trooper helmet is up there on the list.
Oh yeah.
And the Lego helmet series. So those are like my number one things right now.
The next one on the list was the Black Series Darth Vader, which is from the Revenge of the Jedi, and it's an exclusive only at Celebration Europe. So obviously none of the three of us will have it, but it seems kind of weird, painted up red. A lot of red.
They could have that thing. They could have that thing swinging on the pegs at the dollar store, and I wouldn't buy it.
I mean,
this is okay. Did you guys watch the live stream? I didn't know they were doing one, but I happened to tune in. I happened to stumble into it Wednesday morning and was able to watch it. And first of all, when the brand manager of the Star Wars brand says, this is the Revenge of the Jedi poster. This is what it said until they corrected it and changed it to Return of the Jedi. And I'm like, you, what do you mean corrected? No, it was going to be Revenge of the Jedi. And then George was like, I don't think Jedi would take revenge. It'll be returned. And they changed the title. And so Revenge of the Jedi was the first, for lack of a better word, working title, but it got out onto an actual poster.
Yep. I got it right behind me.
And this is a iconic poster. It was artwork that was used even with Return of the Jedi written on it instead of Revenge. And she's like, this is an homage to Vader's look. It's not Vader's look. That's just an artistic representation of Darth Vader. And so to make a figure that looks like some kid colored on him with their crayons, this Darth Vader looks like a child got a hold of it and ruined it. It was playing with mommy's nail polish and ruined Darth Vader. That's what it looks like. And I'm just like, this is garbage. This is trash. And I'm going to say something. I didn't mean to get this fired up this quick. I don't mean to be all negative about things, but shame on collectors for chasing carbonite figures for carbon or whatever they call carbonized, not carbonite, carbonated. I almost said for chasing those fizzy figures. Shame on collectors for getting sucked into something like this and saying, because it's a convention exclusive, I've got to have it because, my collection won't be complete without it. Shame on completists for being that way and just feeding the monster that puts this kind of junk out there. I'll say this, and I know this is very unpopular, but down the line, they also announced the retro collection Mandalorian prototype that like the Crayola,
the rainbow Crayola, yes,
the rainbow Crayola Mandalorian, and we've got 6 variations of this because there are going to be people who are literally chasing down all 6 color variations of this thing, and it's like, shame on you for getting sucked into something like that. Like it is just absolutely, it's garbage. There it is. I said it. Now, I'm glad this is a convention exclusive because I don't want to have to. They've done convention exclusives in the past that I missed out on, that my collection did feel incomplete because I didn't have it. And this is something I would just pass on regardless. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get so passionate about it. I barely even collect anymore, but I was just watching this. I'm like, are you really bragging? Did someone really say this is the best idea we've ever had? Because it's not a good one.
It is not. I agree with you on that one. And there are certain characters I collect, and I've really pulled back the reins on what I'm buying and collecting. But that one, even if it wasn't a exclusive, it's not something I would go and try to find. You're right. I think if it was going out to everybody, it'd be sitting on Ollie's racks or the discount.
It may
racks.
still yet be. You never know.
Next was the Black Series Ki-Adi-Mundi. Now, I don't know if there's been a 6-inch of Ki-Adi-Mundi made yet. I'm not really overly concerned about that. He's not one of my favorite characters. I would have rather seen a Quinlan Boss or something like that. But I guess there's people who collect all the Jedi and they've got lightsabers. Do either one of you guys have any desire for the Black Series Ki-Adi-Mundi?
If I were still collecting like I was, he'd be definitely on my get list because I love the sculpt. I love the head sculpt on him. It's all plastic and it's soft PVC, so you can get some articulation around like the different skirts and that sort of thing. I do wish he came with like a soft goods robe that you could put on and take off of him, for kind of like a Jedi Council scene. But to me, any Jedi is a good Jedi to have in your lineup when it comes to collecting.
DDoc?
As long as it doesn't look like a kid got a hold of it with some lipstick.
Yeah, it's definitely a nice looking figure. I mean, I do wish the robe was cloth. I feel like they're just getting away from cloth on just certain figures now. I just feel like they cut corners on that kind of stuff. Also the Vader too. Like I honestly, this stuff hasn't shown up on my Twitter feed. My Twitter feed is very weird right now. It hardly shows anything I want to see on it lately, ever since I've updated it. I haven't even seen the tweets from our Rule of the Galaxy thing until I looked at it tonight.
Wow.
But yeah, that Vader, I don't know. They're gonna put that price at $34 just because they've done some red dry brushing on pretty much the same figure from the Kenobi series that I still see on the shelves. So I don't know. Some of these I don't know. I'm just they're missing me with some of these figures, but as I said, I'm a little few and far between with some of them right now.
The next one I see on here is the Black Series Rebel Trooper from Endor. Got a little white beard going on here.
You've got two different face plates. You've got one that's a smooth shaven, and then you've got Rex, basically.
There we go. That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, I see the two different face plates. I've always liked this character. I don't know if it was growing up and being Return of the Jedi was a really big thing for me. I liked the speeder, the biker scouts. I liked the Rebel Troopers. So if I was in the market, he's probably one I would get. I just like that look, but it wouldn't be something I'd be rushing to the store to get. But I do like this character. It looks like it's put together pretty well. You guys have any thoughts on the Rebel Trooper?
The only problem with this is it's a 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi kind of promotion thing. So they've got it on the vintage style card back and all. And that always jacks the price up for whatever reason with these things. He's an army builder,
Yeah.
And when I was looking at the pictures of him and everything, the only thing I had an issue with, and this just comes from like being a nitpicky toy collector who has dabbled in a little bit of toy photography with his iPhone here and there, is when you bend him at the knee, the paint breaks so badly. Like the camouflage really goes away. So standing up, he looks great.
I see.
In a standing pose, but if you get him in that kneeling pose, the paint breaks a little too much from the camouflage. But
it's like a white knee underneath it. Yeah.
Yeah. The face is amazing on both of them. It's two great face plates. Again, I'm not really collecting Black Series these days, but this is one of those I'm like, oh, I wish I was. You know what I mean? Like that. This is one that could draw me. This is one that if I were able to be drawn back in, and I'm just not right now.
Yeah.
This would draw me in for sure.
DDoc?
Yeah, I like the concept of the faceplate swapping. That's like some Hot Toys concept there. Honestly, I haven't seen it with Black Series yet. I'm maybe they have done it. I just haven't seen that yet. And I think it's a pretty good idea. It's a nice looking figure. I'm looking at it right now. So,
and you're right, Steve. He is in the bubble still. He's not in the all boxed version.
Right.
So.
Well, they do these for some of the. They've done these for all the different anniversaries. they've had like an anniversary line that is on the vintage style card back. And so this is for the Return of the Jedi. They did it for the 40th of Star Wars, the Empire, and now Jedi.
Yep, got some of those. There's some nice looking characters in those. Taking the 3 3/4, bulking them out to the Black Series. They do look good when they do those. The first one that I'm seeing that's in the nice box artwork with no plastic on it is the Black Series Phase 2 Clone Commander Jesse. I like the clones. I like troopers. I like clones. But I think, Alfie would say, I mean, and this is a good looking character. But man, how many, they could just keep making these and people would buy them up, wouldn't they? I mean, like the clones, as long as you keep making the clones, just make a slight variation, the Jessies versus the Rex, right? I mean, the Echoes versus the Fives. I mean, as long as it's a 501st and things like that, again, it's a good looking character.
Well,
I like that the helmet comes off, the tattoo on the head, everything like that.
He's got the ARC Trooper kibble going on, all over him. So he's got the pauldrons and the skirt and that sort of thing happening. It is the Phase 2 clone, which is the Revenge of the Sith style helmet and everything. But this is meant to be inspired by the Clone Wars. They were saying it's the 20th anniversary of the Clone Wars as well, which really the truth of the matter is it's the 20th anniversary of the Genndy Tartakovsky Clone Wars. Because the Clone Wars, as we understand, like the Clone Wars series, the Dave Filoni Clone Wars was after Revenge of the Sith. So that was like 2006 or 7, wasn't it, when it started? So we're not quite to that 20th anniversary yet, but it was 2003.
Yep.
Leading into the Revenge of the Sith, or around the time of the Revenge of the Sith when they did the short, the Clone Wars micro series.
DDoc, it's a good looking character in my opinion. I think it's hard to miss on a clone trooper, especially all the extras they put on them.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, when it comes to Lego collecting too with clone troopers, it's like people are out of control with clone trooper collecting. Like guys have armies, like people just buy them up. Like I could probably sell my clone troopers that I have on my shelf for who knows how much. People just want to build clone armies. So, if people are into that for collecting these figures, they'll sell.
The one thing that I'm seeing here looks like, is this Jesse a Walmart? A Walmart only?
I think he's a Walmart exclusive. They're going to do, Walmart does twice a year this collector con thing where they do like 2 days that are focused on like toy collectors and that sort of thing. And so this is going to be a Walmart exclusive as part of that. So you'll have to be quick on that pre-order trigger finger kind of thing.
Speaking of being quick on the trigger finger, Star Wars Vintage Collection. You were talking about army building there. You've got the Vintage Collection Phase 2 Clone Troopers. Is that yellow or orange on the outfits? Or
it's an orangey yellow.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's that yellow color. Yeah.
Yeah. These are exclusively going to be at Hasbro Pulse and Shop Disney. So you better be quick on the trigger to get those as well, I'm guessing. But they look nice. I mean, again, it's hard to miss on a clone. They look good, and the colors are great.
Well, they're vintage collection, so they're 3 3/4 inch. It's a 4-pack, and people, again, the army building thing is huge, and especially with this Phase 2 kind of helmet. We've had a lot of the episode 2 style with the T-visor and everything that is more reminiscent of a Mandalorian helmet. Tons of stormtroopers, but now to get that Phase 2 kind of armor that leads into what we think of as the classic stormtrooper is kind of a big deal. And I feel like what we're doing is we're leaning toward, what is it? In 2 years, it'll be the 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith. So 2005 is when that came out. So
Jeez.
yeah, so we're leaning, they're leaning toward that. I feel like getting ready for some Revenge of the Sith anniversary stuff.
Next one, DDoc, you're talking about faceplates and things like that. This is a helmet one. This is that I'm seeing the Vintage Collection Darth Vader Death Star 2, where Luke takes the mask off of Vader. I haven't looked too deep into it yet, but guys, does it look more like Hayden Christensen, or does it look more like I'm blanking his name, Sebastian Shaw? Can you guys take a look? I mean, one, it's a cloth cape, it looks like.
Well, yeah, they've got the Sebastian Shaw picture from Return of the Jedi there. but the head actually feels a little more what I saw on the live stream, a little more Haydenish.
I agree.
But this is the thing that they were really bragging about on this is one of the most snugly fitting of these 3-piece helmets that they've done before, because traditionally they would initially mold these things in wax and cast them off of a wax mold. They could never get to fit together well. But when you're 3D printing these molds now, or these sculpting, when you're sculpting them in 3D printing, you're able to get a tighter fit. And so the helmet, when they had the helmet on, it looked like your typical Vader. It didn't look like, because I have some where the helmet just kind of stands, it pops up off the head a little bit. And this one really seemed to fit snugly down without any issues with the model they were actually showing in hand. So
this is 3 3/4 right here. I think that's a good looking character, actually.
Yeah.
Looking at it,
he's got the battle damage hand that comes off. He's got the lightsaber and a hilt. And like I say, the removable helmet. I always loved the removable helmet in Star Wars figures.
Me too.
Now I'm looking at these pictures too. Did they usually pose these with the capes in the position that they are in, like where it's action sequence, or do you think they might actually be starting to put wire in some of these capes? Like, do you think they'll ever do that? Because like that's like,
I was noticing that on some of the promotional pictures as well, DDoc, and I don't know that this is a wired cape. I think you just had I think what you've got here is some clever use of some stands or some sticky stuff, and then Photoshop later on the back end.
That's why I was like, I'm like, these positions, I'm like, how the hell did they do that for the photo? Like you said, though, they probably did like stick it on a back wall or something like that for it, and then Photoshop it out. I mean, it does look like a nice figure, I'll say. With the helmet coming off, it looks definitely sweet.
And there are so many people, and I know, like you, D-Doc, how you like to have the Anakin Skywalkers from when he was young to the changeover to as he got older and darker to him becoming Vader. I mean, it's a good mix. You can actually start now with little Anakin Skywalker from Phantom Menace and go all the way up to the Kenobi one, where his helmet's cut, in different parts and all that kind of stuff. So this is just another variation. There, just like we talked about army building, there are people that want every variation, heck, even as you're showing now, a Lego version of Vader. So
that's molded great too. I mean, they have like his lower chin piece that stays on it and that slides on. So that's an impressive that's an impressive job by Lego too on that one.
And for people who are listening, if you're bored of us talking about toys, just too bad, because we're gonna have fun talking about toys. Next on the list is vintage Han Solo, 3 3/4. It's the molder, or the pose are showing is him, doing the hey, kind of on indoor where he's like, hey, it's me,
this is your indoor Han without the trench coat, and this is from the bunker, attack and that sort of thing. The selling point on this, and this is really not a great image of it that I'm looking at here, but there are other promotional images. You can chase them down. I should probably be sharing my screen with you so we could just have these pictures rolling up. But the selling point on this is the 3D face technology. It looks like Harrison Ford. There are angles where it looks like Harrison Ford in plastic form. It really is a great looking figure of him. And I do like him having the pose of the, hey, what's going on? When he runs out, and it's the pose he gives them when the Ewoks all show up, basically.
Yes. I mean, look, Joey is a collector. Out of all the things Joey collects is the Solo family tree, right? So anything from Han to Leia to Ben Solo, he collects that whole group right there. So he's got all kinds of versions of each one of those, and Kylo Ren. He's still wishing that Hasbro would release a Ben Solo at the end of Rise of Skywalker, but that's another story for another time. The Weequay, the vintage collection Weequay. Again, we're going back to Return of the Jedi anniversary stuff. Any interest? I mean, you'd have to be really somebody who's got a sail barge and you want to really fill that out.
Really, for a Weequay, you just need a skiff. I've been trying to share my screen, but it says the host disabled participant screen sharing.
Hold on. Here, I'll let you.
I'm just trying. I'm just trying to help.
No, you're doing fine. Let me
So the Weekway, this is a re-release of a vintage collection figure they did, and I thought I had him on my wall, but I do not. And so anything that's original trilogy, a lot of times I'm very tempted to pick up and try to snag, because this is very much the original card for a Weekway. Like it looks like the original card back and everything.
While you're you know what, I'm sitting here and I'm trying to allow you to share, and it's not letting me do that anywhere.
Well, that's all right.
Well, but I want to add a little class to the joint here.
I understand,
Steve.
It's fine. It's fine.
We're almost finished. We're almost through. So for all you bored listening to this, too bad. Go look at the pictures. We'll go from there. Again, going back to the vintage collection, Captain Hauser. This is Captain Hauser. It's a good looking character. This is the one from, what were we just on? Clone, was that
the Bad Batch? They're saying this is Bad Batch. Yeah.
Yeah. Bad Batch season 1, Captain Hauser. This is the one where Cham Syndulla and Hera were all involved. Good looking character, like him. We'll zip through this and I'll let you guys make comments. Next vintage collection is a phase 2 clone trooper. This is one of those ones that's just plain, couple rifles with him, pistol, everything like that. I don't know about you guys, but I kind of dug that there was an Admiral Piet vintage collection. Has there been a 3 3/4? I can't remember. There wasn't originally way back when an Admiral Piet.
No. There was all you had back in the day was an Imperial officer, and he was all in black. He was in the black.
There you go.
Yeah. In more recent collector days, there has been an Admiral Piet, but I think that there's something about the deco on him here, as far as like his little thing up on his chest goes, that they're saying this is more screen accurate and that sort of thing. Admiral Piet had, back in the Power of the Force days, figure.
Okay.
Yeah, back in '98. So he was Captain Piet then, but
Admiral Piet.
Admiral, yeah.
So, all right. Yeah. I'll finish up strong. I'll let you guys talk about these two. The retro collection Mandalorian prototype. We discussed it already. This looks like Crayolas put together, or highlighters stuck together. I've never been a collector of these. I know Alfie collects the Fett version of this, and I know there was a Wookiee and a Stormtrooper. If it makes some people happy, it flicks their bick, whatever, that's fine. Oh, there we go. DDoc Scott, what do you have? Boba Fett?
Yeah, this was it wasn't even something I planned on getting. I found it on a clearance shelf at Target for like $4 one day. And I knew that people were, as Steve was saying earlier, people try to get all of the color variations of it or whatever. And I just saw it. I'm like, this is an awesome looking box. I'm going to get it. I don't care about collecting all the other stuff.
I do like the card. I really do. I like the old school kind of pop art look to the to the artwork on the card. So
yeah.
Well, the last one that I want to hit on, then we'll break away from Toy Talk, because I'm sure right now Brent Dykman is throwing stuff at his phone, or throwing his phone, is the vintage collection Star Killer. And I haven't looked back to see if Star Killer was if there's an anniversary coming up, if there's anything like that. I don't know, when the game came out, when the book, all that kind of stuff, if this is cause for that, or if Star Killer could be wrapped back in. We've always seen like little hints here or there. We've got Vader out there now. We've got tag on it, the Inquisitors out there now. Palpatine's out there looking for acolytes and things like that. Could Star Killer show back up? I don't know. I don't know, but
I think this is just Hasbro re-releasing a figure that they done previously, and now goes on the secondary market for $70 and $80 here and there. And then there are, of course, people asking much more than that when they go to do their eBay auctions for them, that sort of thing. I'm looking at a loose one that sold for $50 today. Here's one that was on a card. unpunched sold for $220. You know, so
Man.
this is a re-release
Okay.
of a popular carded character that they haven't had in a few years. I don't know that this signals any type of because Hasbro honestly doesn't, Lucasfilm doesn't keep them in the loop enough for them. I'm being serious.
You're
Like
probably
they're
right.
just not in the loop enough to know that they're about to do something with Star Killer or not. It's just a popular gaming figure, and I think they just wanted to have something to round out their reveals, and have a gaming figure there.
Okay. DDoc, any
Yeah.
thoughts on Star Killer?
Yeah, if that's the case, I mean, it kind of makes sense because I thought the face mold on it looked really bad, honestly. Like when I first saw it, I was like, damn, I'm like, they can really knock some stuff out with these vintage collection face molds now where they're really accurate, where you're like, oh my God, like, you know, for Black Series, I was shocked. Now for vintage, they look amazing. So I was like, that just does not look like him at all. It's Sam Witwer. Like it just doesn't. It just looks like a very generic face on it to me, and maybe they just remade an old mold of what they had originally, and it's like a nostalgia piece.
This is all it is. It's just it's a re-release of what they did several years ago, and it is the same face mold and everything, and that's unfortunate because you'd like to see him actually make it look a little more Sam Witwer-ish. But again, they're trying. I guess it's saving money. What's interesting to me is there were no pre-orders listed, and none of these will go up for pre-order. Most of these things they're just going to show up on shelves. They're saying look for them on shelves and on Hasbro Pulse. So it's kind of like they want you to keep checking back at all the retailers and everything, and so it ends up being kind of a free for all when it comes to the release dates. I don't know why the Star Wars team is doing things that way. I don't know if they're worried about delays or one of the things that's happened on the Marvel Legends side of things is they'll say, well, this is coming out on such and such a month, this year, and then it'll be 2 months early. And so people who have pre-ordered planning on spending that money down the road end up getting charged a lot earlier than what they had intended. And so I don't know if they're trying to avoid that kind of stuff or what, but Hasbro's got a lot of weird things going on with them right now. That's, kind of funky to see what's going on. I've heard some rumors of like quality control issues on their Sky Striker that just went out from the HasLab on the GI Joe deal. I know there have been people who've been a little bit disappointed with some of the classified GI Joe classified stuff. Collectors are, adult collectors are pretty hard to deal with, but they're also pretty discerning and pretty clear about what they want to have, and it's a weird business in a lot of ways because they're so secretive about so many things. And you have someone like Scott Knightlick who comes along and says, well, this is how the business runs. And you have people getting mad at him for telling you how the business runs.
Right.
And then he feels like he's got to go and defend himself for saying, well, this is how the business runs. But they're wanting him to decry those business practices. And everyone has all these ideas for how to make it better. But at the end of the day, it's a corporation that's making money. They deny that the adult market is a big deal, but they really go a long way to go after the adult market. All the live streams and stuff they do, they're not doing those for kids at 11 o'clock in the afternoon, in the morning.
No. Well, the only thing I have on pre-order right now, I have one Star Wars item still yet to come my way, and that is the 6-inch Black Series Mara Jade. I've always wanted that figure to come out. When I saw it, couldn't resist. It kind of complete my kind of heir to the empire kind of session of characters, and it's just a character that always stood out to me. That those books meant a lot to me, and so she was a character I always wanted to have. So I'm excited about that. But do either one of you guys have any purchases coming up that you're looking forward to, whether it's Star Wars or something else?
I've thought about pulling the trigger on a pre-order for the Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary Paplu, which is one of the Ewoks. I haven't done it yet, but that's about the only thing that I'll end up buying these days are Ewoks. I've just had to really put the pause button on a lot of my collecting stuff.
Me too.
Prices have gone up too much, and I've just got other expenses that have to be paid right now. So, if I could, I will. I do want to plug somebody that has nothing to do with me. He doesn't even know who I am.
Yeah.
But in a world where we've had a lot of these toy companies or toy distributors or toy sellers kind of go under, like, or a big one was Dorkside,
Yeah.
that was a big hit in the collecting community, and really weird the way it went. Nerdzoic.com. He has a YouTube channel, but he dipped his toe into selling toys and stuff, and he does a really good job. He's very transparent about how he does business and what it takes for him to do business. When you pre-order with him, you're charged immediately rather than down the road. So once you've paid, and you don't have so you don't have surprises down the way. And it also helps you be a smarter shopper when you do that, because you're actually seeing the money go out of the wallet in the immediacy of it. He carries all the Black Series, all the Marvel Legends,
Nice.
Transformers and stuff, GI Joe, and he's he's fairly priced. He's not going to be Walmart clearance shelf prices at all, but he's also very good at packaging and taking care of how he sends things. So I've started to do more and more business with him whenever I buy. So that's nerdzoic.com.
Okay.
And I commend him to collectors, especially of 6-inch stuff. He's really, really sharp with handling that stuff.
DDoc, you were kind of like Steve and I, you're getting a little bit more selective in your collecting.
Yeah, I just call myself a clearance Black Series shopper now. That's what I search for. I mean, I just got that Lando from Return of the Jedi, which I got that for I forget what it was. I think it was $7 or $11. So it's like some of these
you're talking about peg warmer Lando.
It was I don't know what it's technically called. It's when he's wearing the disguise in Jabba's palace.
Skiff guard disguise. Yeah,
Skiff guard. Yep, and it's an awesome figure. I'm like, the box was screwed up. I'm like, hell, I'll buy this for $7. I'm just like looking for a value at this point. I mean, one thing I'll say is, like, looking through all these figures, the price point on all the vintage collection is $16.99 now.
Oh,
yeah. Like, when I started collecting these, I didn't get into the figures till maybe 2 years ago. Like,
sorry,
if that, and it's like they were $11 when I got into it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I remember when I paid $11. I'm like, gosh, this is too much for an action figure.
Yeah. Now they're $16.99 and Black Series are going for $30. And it's like, it's so funny, like, in the progress of my collecting these figures, how I've seen barren shelves to now them just being full of figures where I'm at, because I just don't think people are willing to pay $30 for them. No. And it's especially when they're in these crappy cardboard boxes. Like the Marvel Legends figures, I've seen them loaded when it's not the see-through, the clear plastic anymore. Like a lot of the Black Panther figures, I've seen them open on the shelves. I've seen them in the clearance aisle, and people still don't buy them. Like, just because I think it's the box art that is killing them. Like, I don't understand how these guys are like shooting themselves in the foot with this. No one likes this.
There are a couple of things that are going on with that. One, you've kind of messed up the mint on card and mint in box collector, because people like to display these things where you can see them still in the box. In that window packaging is conducive to that. The other thing is, there's some collectors that are getting burned. They go to Walmart, they go to Target, and they buy a Marvel Legends plastic-free package, and they open it up, and there's some rando wrestling figure in there, where someone has carefully gone and taken out the Build-A-Figure part or taken out the action figure and swapped it for something else. So I've actually seen some guys who genuinely take scales with them to the store, and they know down to like a tenth of an ounce how much these things are supposed to weigh, and they'll weigh them to make sure that's what's in the box. And that's not fun, that's not fun at all. And so I just don't. I understand what Hasbro is trying to do, but at the same time, you've got to. You can't go full one way, like you have to have some happy medium to what you're doing. And they went too far in one direction with it. But then also, are you telling me then that these boxes are more expensive? I understand there's inflation. Exactly. I understand there's inflation and everything, but are you telling me that a cardboard box that has stuff printed on it, no plastic in these packages at all, are you telling me that's more expensive than a plastic window, plastic clamshell that's holding the figure in there? I don't buy that. I just don't buy it at all. And And so I feel like on one hand, inflation's a real thing, and that has caused things to go up. I always, that's just a fact of life that we have to accept. But I also feel like there's been some monkeying with prices here and there. Why is like there was an action figure that came out of Marvel Legends that came out, and I've hijacked the show and I apologize, and I'm not even being entertaining. That's the problem. Like right now,
You're just ranting, Steve.
I'm just ranting. I'm not even being entertaining.
This is entertaining to me. I love it.
But there was a figure. It was a Marvel Legends. It was Star-Lord, the comic book version of Star-Lord, not the Chris Pratt. He's a Walmart exclusive, and it was like $38. And there was nothing really extra about him. He's just a standard Marvel Legends figure. And I was like, this is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And as a collector, I'm like, I'm out. I'm done. You can't get me an animated series Lizard at a decent price because it's selling out the minute it's up for sale. But here you've put this guy at almost $40 with nothing real special about him.
Right.
And you expect me to buy that? No, I'm not. And so I think they're finding the limit that the market will bear.
Yeah.
But I think they've done it in a very poor way. And and so now what I like to do is I go to Walmart and I stand down at the end of the aisle and kind of hide, and I'm like, behold the collector perusing the aisles, hoping for that precious find. What is this? A Funko Pop.
Oh gosh.
No bobblehead for you today. So
you did see my tweet before the show.
I did not. No.
Okay. I actually had Attenborough as the tweet.
Okay.
I said surprise guest tonight, and it was him.
My wife's been putting on the Planet Earth show on our TV, or whatever, on Netflix, and she's just like, "There's something about this guy's voice. It's just so great." I'm like, "Yep, I know all about his voice. Don't worry."
You don't give yourself enough credit for that, Steve. By the way, I've talked to other people about it who I've had on the show, and they all like it. And I still think you should make it more of a running bit on Geek Out Loud.
I always forget on Geek Out Loud. It kind of has its home here.
Yeah. Yes, it does.
Hey,
well,
exclusive.
That's right. This is a Hasbro
Galaxy Pulse exclusive.
Well, welcome and thank you everyone for joining Toy Talk on Rule the Galaxy. You know what? For all you non-toy collectors, we'll jump into some other things here, and maybe this will get Steve where he feels like he's entertaining instead of ranting. But Steve, we've talked about it on the show a few times, and I like to get feedback from others. Since we've talked, the Mandalorian season 3 trailer released. DDoc's talked about it. I've talked about it. We've all kind of said the Mandalorian in Star Wars since, and I just talked to Mark Newbold about it. The Mandalorian in Star Wars right now is the great unifier.
Yeah.
And we, we're pumped about the next season because of where it could go and what it's going to bring. And I don't think the sizzle reel or the trailer gave away anything. It just gave you little splashes. But did you have any thoughts when you first saw it of things that brought to your mind or you were excited about for this show?
I'm really, I've been surprised that people are kind of, there's a lot of debate about what's happening in the Outer Rim. That there was some talk in an earlier season about, all that was going on in the Outer Rim. There's something strange happening. He was telling Cara Dune, I forget what the guy's name was, but the Rebel pilot guy was like telling Cara Dune, there's some strange things happening in the Outer Rim. We could really use you out there. And then on this particular trailer that actually the version that's on Disney Plus, you see a Star Destroyer under construction, that sort of thing. I just assumed the minute he told her that we were talking about the First Order, kind of organizing power in the Outer Rim. That's honestly kind of that was my assumption of things.
Agreed.
With what's happening on Exegol and all this other stuff. But then there are people who are like, I bet it's Thrawn. I'm like, I hate for people to be disappointed. I don't think it's Thrawn. I think fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, we have a story that we're building towards it. This series of narratives takes place between Return of the Jedi and the time of the Force Awakens. And so what they're having to build toward is that sequel trilogy. Are there stops along the way? Could it be something different with Thrawn, that's sure, why not? But somewhere right now, what's happening, in the galaxy is, baby Ben is on the way, if not already here, and Luke is not just, I know we saw Luke on this planet with just Grogu and Ahsoka, but at some point he's assembling other Force sensitives to start his little school that gets destroyed. I guess it got destroyed. That's, we skipped over all that crap in that one movie, but that's none of my business.
He's got to meet up with Lor Santeca. He's
right. We've got to get Lor Santeca in there. How much would I just absolutely, to take a wrestling term, I would pop if Lor Santeca showed up. Lor Santeca is what I always go into when I'm doing the mouse droid, by the way. Lor Santeca. Lor Santeca. That's what he sounds like when he's going through the little death.
Yes.
Yes. But Babu Frick being in the thing is really neat to me. Any Grogu throwing the thing out of the cave and then coming out like looking all BA. I really, whoa. I really, we just went into hyperspace there with Brent. I think you said it well, Joey, that the Mandalorian has been the great unifier for the most part in Star Wars. I just can't get over that end of season 2. When I said it this way, a million fan voices cried out, "It's Luke." And I got emotional watching some of those reactions. I hate reaction videos, but I couldn't help myself but watch the reaction videos of people watching Luke show up, because that was the unifying thing. That was a thing where we all felt. I don't know that there was a moment like that in Star Wars fandom since Chewie were home. And so to have Luke show up and get his big moment. And when you think about even Book of Boba Fett, I think most people thought the best episodes of Book of Boba Fett was the Mandalorian season 2.5, with him going to visit Grogu and everything. Unfortunately, I like that finale of that season, with Boba Fett. Boba Fett riding a Rancor will never be old to me. It's always going to be something that I take so much pleasure in, just the thought of. But yeah, I don't know what's going to be happening. I trust Favreau and Filoni and company. I have no reason not to at this point.
Well, two things on my side. One, Brent, we're going to say hi to you in 1 second. But two, I'm being a guy who's original trilogy guy, and then watch my son watch the prequels, and we went through the sequels all together, and we were trying to figure out that bumpy road. I was hesitant to believe that Mandalorian would be that great unifier. I was a little standoffish, saying, "Well, where are we going with this?" But once it came out, and the characters and the storyline, and I can see why it does it. It draws people from all 3 trilogies into one show. And it's got a great character and outfits and baby Grogu, all that stuff. So I'm excited for that. And I'm excited that we have something that Star Wars fandom can all say, we're going to watch this, right? So I was getting ready to say hi to Brent, and he just put up a finger to tell me no. So so we're going to say hi to him in a minute. I will let you know. Brent, God love him, thank you for joining us, because his son has been dealing with some health issues. So Brent finally made it home from dealing with those, so we're glad that he's back and his son Hudson's back. But go ahead.
Let me you mentioned the bumpy road of the sequel trilogy, and I just want to say this. I'm going to go Scott Rifen here and really pump you guys up. I think one of the things that your show has done well since I was first aware of you guys is you've been very good about the differing viewpoints being welcome and being talked about in a very civil fashion and in an open fashion. And I don't know, outside of me and Rifen, I don't know that you guys have had anyone on that would get you in much trouble with anybody, with anyone in fandom.
We do.
I mean, you're not going to make all the people happy any of the time. That's just not how it works. But I think you guys have done a great job of navigating some of those waters without fear, not like you're afraid of broaching subjects, but being willing to accept all comers. And so when you talk about where you were with the Mandalorian, I was in a much similar place because of fandom. and because of my disappointment in what had happened in some of the expanded universe stuff and the sequel trilogy, I was very deflated as a Star Wars fan. And so I went into Mandalorian just thinking, I really did. I went in arms crossed saying, impress me. I really did. And the minute that pram opens up, well, first of all, the minute he's fighting alongside an IG droid, again, it's a toy box moment. I know it's not Boba Fett and IG-88, but for all intents and purposes, it was Boba Fett and IG-88. You had original trilogy aliens and Nikto that were, running around as part of this thing, Nikto and Barada that were going around doing this stuff. And then that pram opens up and you see it's such an 80s movies moment and everything else, but you see there the child that would come to be called Baby Yoda, and they're still trying to push Grogu on us. I was hooked. I'm like, okay, I'm there. I'm in.
Yeah.
We got an Ugnaught teaching him how to ride one of these things that came from the Ewok adventure. Yes, I'm there. Let's do it.
Go ahead,
I have spoken.
That's right. And now you're speaking. Say hi real quick, Brent, before we go any further.
What up? Yeah, I know that I'm just jumping in. I looked at the clock and I'm like, we usually got about a half hour left. So I figured out where we would try to jump in. So I was not expecting to see the man, the myth, the legend that is
DDoc.
Right.
Yes.
Was not expecting to see this man, but I enjoy anytime that Mr. Glosson does grace us with our presence. I'm enjoying the hot tub talks that you have on Geek Out Loud as well. So I like the concept, and I like the sound effects behind it. With the
it's
got the bubbler on.
Yeah, it's been fun. I've been trying to get Joey Marinero on over there, but we can't seem to make things line up. Yeah,
you just call me.
I said the same thing on the last Rule the Galaxy, the last one that I was on. I told him that he needs to get in the hot tub with you.
That's right.
I'm in. All you gotta do is tell me. My wife thinks very highly of Steve Glosson. She'll let me do anything he asks.
That's crazy. Usually wives do like me. So
hey, Brent, you know what you missed before you hopped on?
I'm probably a whole hell of a lot, so I can't wait to listen to the first hour.
You're going to be miserable. You're going to be miserable.
We did a lot of toy talk.
Oh, imagine that. Glosson's on Toy Talk.
But Mr. Glosson also brought his friend Mr. Attenborough with him, and we had an Attenborough, and we were told that it's a Rule of the Galaxy exclusive for Attenborough to show up.
I said I feel like it's a Rule of the Galaxy exclusive. Yeah. Hey.
You feel like, I'm sure you've dropped that on that Big Honkin' Show or somewhere around the world.
No, I might have done on the Big Honkin' Show once or twice, but not like doing the Star Wars stuff. Just
obviously, right. The Star
doing
Wars
something about a Florida man or something. Behold the Florida man,
right?
Trying to wrestle the alligator.
Some of those articles that you read about on anyways.
No.
But no, yeah. So I can't wait to hear Mr. Attenborough, because that is probably out of, what is this, 3 years now, 180 shows.
191, Brent. 191.
Sorry. But when he dropped that Attenborough impersonation when we were talking about the creatures, which I think Alfie said they're getting a season 2 of that.
They are doing a season 2 of those creatures, yes.
Which it completely wasn't David Attenborough, but it was when we first heard about it. That was probably one of my top 1, if not 2 moments on the show, was listening to you drop those
there you go.
impersonations of the Wampa and all that other stuff. So
if they did that with Star Wars with him, they would be legends, because I don't know if you guys saw the prehistoric one that he did for Apple TV, where it was dinosaurs and it was all CGI'd.
Wow. No, I didn't see that. That's amazing.
He did it exactly like it was Planet Earth, but it was just all dinosaurs, but the CGI was amazing. And you really felt like you were just watching like dinosaurs in their environment. And he just talked about them just like he would, whatever else, a bird that's, flapping its feathers around ready to mate or whatever. That's what I was watching last night.
Nice.
That's $1 million idea right there.
Steve, I guess you'll have to, Disney. Yeah, you just have to throw that out there. I mean,
none of my business.
Okay. All right.
The Kowakian monkey lizard.
Who showed up in the he's going to be in the Mandalorian.
Yes.
They had him in there. Remember, they were cooking him in the first episode of the Mandalorian.
Well, he was hanging in a tree in episode in Navarro, the preview for episode 3.
They had a few of them hanging in a tree, but remember in the first episode they had one, they were cooking him. One was in a cage and the other was over a spit. I'm gonna spit over a fire.
Didn't they have some like what was in the cages with Cara Dune in the second season?
Oh,
Because I was
gosh.
just rewatching it. It was like right towards the beginning of the second season. She went into like some traders den, and there were like cages.
There might have been in there too. I need to do a
I don't know
rewatch
what
of
it
all
was,
that
but
She
stuff
was in there with
myself.
the Aqualish, wasn't? Weren't they the
Yeah,
Aqualish?
I think so.
And they had something in cages that were like,
Yeah.
yeah,
She had a little weasel sidekick.
they were like
in that.
ferrets. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're probably something out of like Galaxy's Edge or something.
Hey, hey. So Steve, I know you haven't been watching Bad Batch, and I kind of want to talk a little Bad Batch, but I want there's enough in there that's gonna perk your interest here as we're talking.
I'll just relax.
Well, that's what I said. You can just relax.
Steve, can I say one thing that might perk your interest? I'm hoping if I say this, it'll perk your interest.
Sure.
Wookiee Jedi.
Yeah, and let me say this to that. Did any Jedi die during Order 66?
Only the 5 we saw on.
Yeah, it was just Kiadi. It was those kids in the tower.
Yeah.
It was George Lucas's son.
Kiadi
it was
Mundi.
Kiadi Mundi, Plo Koon, Ayla Secura, Stas Ali,
Kanan Jarrus's master.
So the other one that was on Camino that had the headdress, the
Kit Fisto.
like not okay, but because
I know who you're talking about.
Kit Fisto died before, but there were a couple on Camino because they were carrying the dead body off of Camino in Bad Batch episode or season 1.
Mm-hmm.
So there were, but it's like the one I don't know her name because I'm terrible with all of that stuff.
It's not Ayla Secura, but it's the one who has the red and white stripe. Steve, with the like.
Shakti.
Shakti. There you go. Yep.
She's had 3 different deaths in Star Wars.
I know.
She's got the deleted scene death where General Grievous kills her in episode 3. She's got her death at the hands of Starkiller in Force Unleashed, and I guess now she has a death on Camino in the Bad Batch.
Huh. You don't see her. You see the dead body getting taken off.
Okay. Well, she's still alive out there somewhere.
Maybe she's like a cat. Maybe she's got
no one's ever dead, Steve. That is probably my like. You make that comment about like, did a Jedi die? Like, either you see like even if you see them die on screen, they still come back. That's like probably my number one gripe with the entire series as it keeps going for 40 years.
What did we learn from the Obi-Wan series? Anakin didn't know how to kill the kids. They ran Reva through the one time and he ran her through again. And Anakin just can't kill anybody.
Well,
unless he's doing this.
Yeah.
And then you stab the Grand Inquisitor in the stomach and he still survives.
Don't even get me started. That's not the Grand Inquisitor. That's Uncle Fester's like cousin.
Okay, sorry. What was supposed to be the Grand Inquisitor?
That's right. What was supposed to be the Grand
Inquisitor? Come on. I do like the Grand Inquisitor in Rebels. And Rebels, I like that character. And it's Jason Isaacs, which why would you just say, hey, can we bring him in to do this role? His voice was great.
Look, I don't care who was in the role. Make him Utapauan. Don't make him Uncle Festerian. He was Utapauan in the Rebels. Why not Utapauan in Obi-Wan?
And so to go back to Wookiee Jedi.
Sorry.
And the Bad Batch. I was just trying to do a hard segue.
Slam right into the wall.
I'm gonna relax.
You're good. So to go back to the Wookiee Jedi, they were have we seen slaver droids like this before?
So Steve, you'll get a kick out of this. There's a whole gang that's just droids. The droids are the gang. They're called the Vanguard Axis. And they're buying chain codes, basically fake IDs from the Bad Batch.
Yeah.
But they're holding on. They've trapped a Wookiee Jedi, and which is again, it's Gunji from the younglings from Clone Wars.
So it is the dude from the younglings.
It is,
because I didn't know the connection. Yeah. I thought it probably was, but it is that dude from the younglings episodes on Clone Wars.
Yep.
Okay.
So
the Vanguard Axis, that sounds like something out of the Wheel in the Marvel Comics universe. That's what Ripon would say.
Yeah.
Well, so
Oh,
not
you
only
would.
that, they kind of look like Danger Will like they kind of have a look of
They
like Danger
do.
Will with Danger Will Robinson robot. Their heads were circular in that nature, that kind of
Yeah.
imbo-ish as well, kind of a.
I'm seeing a picture now. How many were there? Because I'm seeing a picture of like 3, a yellow, a red, and a blue one.
There were
was a decent
multicolored
amount.
ones. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But basically it starts off with them. Omega starts sensing something, and it's they're tasing the Wookiee. And that was one of Alfie's questions, guys. Alfie says, and I don't know if you guys read it or if he just sent it to me, so I apologize. I'll have to look. First question was, okay, so the Vanguard Axis had a buyer in lined up for the Wookiee Jedi, right? He wants to know who we think the buyer was. It has to be Palpatine, right? Could it be anybody else? You're watching.
It's got to. It's got to
watching
be
Steve
Palps.
Glosson. That's
I mean, it's got to be because he's a Jedi and they're trying to buy Jedis. But I'm trying to figure out what this giant Colossus thing is that Steve is playing with.
Steve. Tell him who it is.
Oh, this is Galactus. He's the devourer of worlds. I'm just relaxing while you guys talk Bad Batch. Don't mind me.
I told him you can just relax while we watch it, while we talk about this.
This is what I saw when I saw them. If you're watching YouTube, is the guy from Power
Yes.
Rangers. He
Thank
looked
you.
exactly
When I
like
look
the
at the-
dude from Power Rangers.
Yes, when I look at the
Okay.
picture, I'm like, I don't see so much of Will Robinson. But when you bring
Alpha
him up,
5.
yes, Alpha 5, yes.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, I don't know the Power Rangers. That was between generations, I guess.
We
so
skipped
yes,
that.
no, I feel like they were either going to take him to Mount Tantif and try to get him and pull his M count out and see if they could start cloning his Jedi powers. I mean, that's the implications that are, if you follow the Bad Batch in the seasons, I feel like that is the desired implications.
I agree. I did like that they took us back to Kashyyyk. I thought going back to Kashyyyk was awesome. There definitely was some of those were basically Ralph McQuarrie drawings of a Wookiee village, right?
Isn't that an LL Cool J song going back to Kashyyyk?
you know?
No, it's
I think it might
Tupac.
have to be now.
It's Tupac.
Okay, Tupac.
Going back
Biggie
to
Biggie
Kashyyyk.
sang. Back
Was
to
it?
Cali, yes.
I thought
Yeah.
it was. Oh,
No.
I like the whole Biggie Tupac feud. I was on the opposite side of the feud. I should be
East
ashamed
versus
of
West
my.
Coast.
You should be ashamed of myself.
Steve, were you into Tupac or Biggie?
You know what? I don't know that I know any of those songs.
Okay. But going back to Kashyyyk, I think needs to be
back.
So
Yeah,
were
LL
those
Cool J?
Okay,
LL
so
Cool J
It
going back
was.
to Cali. I'm sorry, LL Cool J going back to Cali. I was right.
Oh, I was thinking so they were talking about when they got to Kashyyyk, they were talking about the Empire being there. So they put the clones in there with the Tradoshans who were hunting down the Tradoshans were hunting down the Wookiees. So I don't know all of that lore, but those that don't know the lore, the Boba Fett, this helps them understand if they go and watch Boba Fett and see Black Chrysanthemum rip the arm off the Tradoshan. The reason for that. That's what I thought about.
Well, on Clone Wars, the Trandoshans were hunters of the Wookiee. So
in the expanded universe, that is also a thing that was true back in the day.
see, there we go.
See, I don't know the Clone Wars as well, but I do know that there was in the Mandalorian, and I knew that was the lore, right? Like I knew that was there. But this was a good showing, but it also showed that the Empire / they had clone troopers. These weren't TK troopers. The clone troopers were working, and the Tradoshans were rocking AA5 or AATs. They were rocking droid tanks with flamers on as their main weapon.
Yes, yeah,
flamethrowers tearing up the forest. Come on, they're just hurting the environment. That's all. I mean, they're just. Come on.
Well, it was a good lesson on how to stop forest fires with, digging around the outside and getting all the brush up. There was shoveling twice in this episode. So I thought that was pretty good. Grab some shovels.
I like that. I like it. We also see that the Wookiees were speaking with the trees to get advice on how to battle the Trandoshans and the clone troopers. I believe that's been spoken about in the past from all the way back to the holiday special, right?
Okay, so I don't know that one. Help me out with that. Glosson, old EU guy. Did the Wookiees talk to trees? Because in the only time that I know it, and I don't know in a lot of EU, but they did have them actually talking in the trilogy, the Zahn trilogy. That first one that came out, they had the Wookiees. They had a giant like progressive city that was on top of it. It was actually like a New York City that was built up, but it was up in the trees. It wasn't like the old school Kashyyyk villages that they have.
Well,
they've been showing.
I guess I imagined it more Ewok villagey, but just bigger. When I read it, but yeah, I remember in Dark Force Rising, there's that whole thing where Chewie is crawling under the tree. Yeah, like he's in the underside of it, hanging on. I don't remember them actually speaking to the trees, but that sounds familiar. I don't think that's something that Dave Filoni would just throw in or allow thrown into that series willy-nilly. I don't know that he's running the series, though. I might be wrong there. That's more of a Scott Rifen question because he read those Brian Daly books back in the day, and I bet that's something that would have come out of those.
I can see that.
So I mean, I like it because it's all like them sensing nature and talking to nature, and it was a way that I like when people separate themselves with having different Jedi powers. Case in point, I like the fact that Ezra had a connection with animals. He was the first one that showed a connection with animals. I like the fact that Rey had Force healing, which they hadn't shown before. So I like the fact that different people have different Force specialties. Quinlan Voss could see the history of the object when he touched it. So I like the fact that Homeboy, when he touched the tree, could actually speak with the tree. And it kind of like shows that he's connected with nature, and that's kind of his thing, is talking to nature.
I almost feel like that more comes out of like the Ewok cartoon, because the Ewoks were all into the trees and stuff.
They were. So there were spirits in the trees. You are correct.
They may have borrowed that from the Ewoks, which is fine with me.
DDoc, you had something? Go ahead.
The creatures in this episode, now the spider looking creatures, are they something we've seen before? And also like the cat style things that the Wookiees were riding. Well, I don't remember if we've seen them before or not.
I was going to ask Mr. Attenborough about the creatures with the big ears. I believe it was some Macquarie art, Steve, that had like cat-like, and it might have been related to the Ewoks, but they were basically like large cats with huge ears.
They were like bats. It was like a bat-cat hybrid that would like My lions, something like that. I don't know if you've seen this or not, Steve, or if you're looking at any images from the Bad Batch on these, but I know I've seen them before. Whether it's an artwork or
they on all four legs.
Yes.
Do they look like striped, like a
there
tiger?
Were some stripes.
There were some stripes. They rode them kind of like lions, like big, like almost like, I would say like almost like elephant lions, because you got Wookiees that were sitting on top of these things. So those things were huge.
Yeah.
But they were like,
they had really big ears, like a lynx or things like that. But I know I've seen the artwork for them somewhere before, but I'm just blanking on it right now. But
are they blast tails? I'm seeing something here called blast tails, but they were from a game.
Don't know that.
They carried infectious diseases that were able to infect even a healthy, full-grown Wookiee. I don't know where they came from.
They were cool, and the spider, it reminded me of the ice spider from the Mandalorian, but I don't know if but this obviously wasn't an ice world, but it looked a lot like that ice spider.
I don't do well with spiders. Like when you go back to Harry Potter and you go back to arachnophobia, and then you see these spiders and the spiders from Mandalorian, I just don't do well with spiders. And hearing that Trandoshan get taken by the web and pulled up to them, and he was freaking out. I'm like, little kids are gonna be freaking with this thing right here. So
my little guy said that was his favorite part, actually, when the guy got trapped by the spider.
Great.
StarWars.com doesn't do the behind the scenes stuff they used to do anymore, do they? Like the episode by episode breakdowns? Because those used to be real helpful when we'd watch Rebels and that sort of thing. Because after an episode of Rebels, they would have online, they'd have like kind of a breakdown with images from the show and that sort of thing.
Here you go, guys. Mylaya's huge cat-like creature with telescoping ears. They climbed and leapt through the forests of the planet Kashyyyk, where they were used as mounts by members of the Wookiee species. And they are actually discussing how they met Gunji. So, yeah. Steve, can you see that at all?
Yeah. Yes. That does look like a cat bat, doesn't it? You know what it looks like? You guys, I bet you guys don't remember She-Ra, Princess of Power.
I do remember She-Ra, Princess of Power.
There was an owl guy on that thing. I can't remember his name. Cowl was his name. And he was like an owl face, but his ears were like real big and rainbowy, like those appear to be multicolored. So if you look up Kowl, Cowl, and kind of look at his face, that's what I thought of what I could make out on that image.
Well,
so
yeah.
How do you spell that? Mylaya.
Mylaya.
So I think we've beat around the bush of Alfie's second question because you didn't go right to it.
I didn't.
We've talked a little bit about this, and this is something that I think we can get. We'll say our chime in, but Steve, who hasn't watched it, I'm going to kind of phrase it in a different way because I feel strongly this way. His question was, for those people that are listening, is Omega Force sensitive? And I'm going to go to the same thing that I said about Andor. I'm going to go to the same thing that I said. Does Star Wars need the Force? Yes. Does every Star Wars story need to be connected to the Force? No. I hope that she doesn't have a connection to the Force. And that's where I'll lie. So my question, I guess, is my question to bring Steve in is, what are your feelings? Does every Star Wars story need to have some connection to the Force?
I don't think so. I think though that you need to have people who remember Jedi and their connections to the Force. I think that the Jedi and the Force are such an integral part of the overall universe of Star Wars. I don't think you have to have Force sensitive characters in everything you do. I think one of the things about Andor that worked was it was really the first Star Wars thing we had where the Force was barely mentioned, and Jedi were maybe talked about a little bit, but barely. There was no focus on that. Even with Rogue One was meant to be that way, but then you brought in Chirrut Bays, and those guys were the guardians of the wheels, and
right.
So and I loved Rogue One, don't get me wrong, that's not a criticism. I'm saying though that even something where we thought we weren't going to get much of that, there it was.
Right.
I think unless this kid's supposed to be a clone of Palpatine, no, she shouldn't be Force sensitive. I don't know much about her and what her deal is. I thought I was under the impression that she was be a clone of Jango Fett, but just somehow a girl, which that's none of my business. But unless she's a clone of Palpatine somehow, I don't think so. So
I don't think she is either. I think she's sensitive to things like Hunter is. Like she has a good sense and can feel emotions and track things, but I don't think she's Force sensitive. I don't think it'd be good for the story for her to be Force sensitive, especially if she's a clone of Jango Fett. I mean, why would that make sense? So, DDoc, how about you?
Yeah, well, I have 2 points on it. One, I believe the Force is real in real life, just because Brent came in after we talked about action figures for 35 minutes. So the Force was with you on that. We talked in depth about every single figure. So number one, the Force is real. 2, though, I don't think she's Force sensitive. I think she's just so interested in other cultures and everything in the outside world. Like, I think that's why she's going and listening to the trees with, the Wookiees. And like, when it comes to the pirate episode, she's so like interested in the puzzles and everything. And, you kind of almost forget that Omega was literally like just shuttered inside and like was not open to the outside world in the beginning of all of this. So, I mean, I do think the Jedi and the Force are important because like I watched this episode with my little guy before we came on tonight. And when that Wookiee pulled out that lightsaber, he was jacked up like it was a real Star Wars movie, honestly. Like when he came out, when he was holding his hand out, he was like, what is he doing? And then he got the lightsaber. He was like, a Wookiee can be a Jedi? I'm like, yeah, dude. He was like, what? He was fired up about it.
So it kind of flies in the face of what I say about one thing too. So like, I don't want Omega to be a Jedi. I don't want her to be super Force sensitive. But I've also said that I also like the idea of everybody having a degree of Force sensitivity. It just takes, some people have a little bit more, some people have a little bit more chosen. I do like the fact that everybody can have Force sensitivity if they just allow themselves to be in tune to it. So that's what I have said in the past.
How high their midichlorian count is.
But I don't want it to be the focus. I don't want it. It doesn't have to be the focus of every episode. It doesn't have to be the focus of every show, because the universe is big enough that there's a lot of people who aren't. And so we can have those stories of people who aren't Force sensitive and non-Force sensitive things if it's told in the good way and if it's told in the entertaining way. I'm hoping that she's not. Like, okay, she could have some Force sensitivity, but like you said, she's just open to the world. She senses, she's an emote or whatever people call it, I think is what it's referred to as. They can feel emotion a little bit easier and they sense emotion. So, yeah.
Correct me, make sure I'm right here. Bad Batch is happening on the heels of like Revenge of the Sith, correct?
Correct.
So you're in the dark times. The
beginning
Force,
of the dark times.
Yeah, the Force is out of balance. It has been out of balance. It's very out of balance now. And I think what the Force is always needs to be moving and flowing, and the Force is working to bring itself back into balance. But right now it's in a moment where it's not happening. So I think that, yeah, I think you can do a show like this without ever worrying about Jedi, because you shouldn't be. Like I think that's my whole thing. The idea of the dark times is you have to completely have, and I know, and this flies in the face of something I enjoyed about Rebels, and that was Kanan and Ezra. But you have to have no Jedi, so that when the Jedi return, it's a big deal. But you've got Ahsoka floating around out there still. You've got, like I say, it seems like there was no Jedi killed in Order 66 at all. And so I know they probably feel like it's a risk, but regardless of what you think about Andor, they did take a risk. And I think in some ways and in some places it paid off. I think that my problems with Andor were not the story. It was the pacing. My problems with Andor went a lot more to what they were trying to make something that it felt like they had an idea for a series and they shoehorned it into Star Wars rather than had an idea for a Star Wars kind of series. But one of the things I think that really work about it are whispers of the Force, whispers of the Jedi, but as our hope is lost because they're not around anymore and they're never coming back. That kind of thing. So it matters when Obi-Wan and Vader confront each other again. It matters when, Kanan sparks a lightsaber there when they go to rescue the Wookiees at the beginning of Rebels. But if every other series you've got some Jedi that's out there suddenly sparking a lightsaber, what does it matter? What does it matter? What does Luke matter then?
Right.
Then nothing happened. There are no dark times. They're just undercover times.
Steve, I agree. Growing up in the time frame that I did and seeing Star Wars the way I did, it really intensified the thought that there should be Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Luke. And that's it, right? I mean, now saying that, I love Kanan's character. I really enjoy Ahsoka's character, but I don't know that I need 50 other Jedi sneaking around, always being hunted and all that kind of stuff. I would almost rather it be that way, that everyone's gone and out of the picture by the time we get to the original trilogy. Obviously, it's not going to be that way because Ahsoka is back, and at some point in time, Ezra is going to come back from the space whales. But, other than that, I don't need Gunji, and I don't need this, and I don't need that. Just give me the thing that's important. That's the return of the Jedi when Vader turns back to himself and Luke saves him, and right there. So anyway,
So I guess my
soapbox.
argument to that, my argument to that though, right? So the way that I would push back on that is, in Rebels they talk about catching force sensitive babies, right? And this is the idea that the force is still around, but they're not Jedi, right? So they're force sensitive, but they're not Jedi.
Yeah.
So that's the difference, is that you have these force sensitives that are around, but they weren't Jedi.
Yeah.
So that's a way to, with the new batches of those growing up, which is kind of what Ezra was. Ezra was a new baby that just happened to be force sensitive. They got turned into a Jedi through training with Kanan.
Yeah,
but you're talking about the Clone Wars era guys that are running around that in hiding.
Right. I'm talking about fully trained Jedi or Padawans who were mostly trained. I'm not talking about people who are born after the fact who are force sensitive. That makes all sense in the world. And for the Empire to hunt them down and either kidnap them and convert them to Inquisitors or kill them makes all the sense in the world as well. What, to me, when Yoda says, "When gone am I, the last of the Jedi you will be to Luke," that matters. That's not you. I know people say, "Well, Yoda didn't know." You have to accept that. Yeah, Yoda knew. Yoda knew exactly what he was talking about, because the minute you take those kinds of statements and you say, "Well, Yoda only understood this part of things," then you're neglecting a whole point where Yoda was talking to Ezra in a, via the Force in a old Jedi temple. Yoda is connected. Yoda knows what's going on. Yoda knows what's up. And so if you don't have all the Jedi except for Obi-Wan wiped out within the first 5 years after Order 66, either wiped out or converted to Inquisitors. And by Jedi, I'm talking about the robe wearing, lightsaber sparking, Jedi starfighter flying, wheeling, dealing, kiss stealing sons of guns that are the Jedi. Woo! And they're having a hard time holding these alligators down. If they're not
Did
out
you
of the,
really? Was that the mouth of the South? Did you just do like the?
No, that was Rick. I just ripped off Ric Flair.
Ric Flair. Okay.
Yeah. Now you can rip off
the mouth of the South.
You could rip off Dusty Rhodes. Doc Times, baby. Doc Times is when a Dark Lord of the Sith comes and smacks you on the booty and says, "The Sith have taken your job, Daddy. The Emperor's in charge. Them Doc Times." But I think within 5 years after Order 66, the Jedi have to be wiped out. Darth Vader had to help the Emperor hunt down and destroy, with or without the help of the Inquisitors. The question then becomes, what becomes of those Inquisitors? Did Vader and the Emperor destroy them? Or here's something that'd be really interesting to do on the backside of everything. And I know this is not what happened, but to me, what would have been interesting to say in the sequel trilogy is, oh, these Knights of Ren people were leftover Inquisitors that maintained the guard of the Emperor at Exegol while he's doing all these experiments and everything. And Kylo got to lead them and actually get this. And in fact, here's a crazy thing. What if we'd actually got to see them in action outside of just fighting Kylo in episode 9? What if we'd actually gotten to see them in action in episode 8 and stuff?
I still don't know who they are. Honestly, I don't know who they are. Right.
I don't know who they are either, but I saw someone on Twitter say something the other day about they were Jedi that had been converted away from the school or something. Luke had started. I don't know, but like my thing is like, to me, a cool backstory is, well, these are Inquisitors. These are people that were still being, recruited by the acolytes, by the dark side acolytes. These were babies that had been born just after the Emperor died or just before he died and had been kidnapped and had been raised by this. But anyhow, that gets off of y'all's guys' conversation.
No.
That's
the way the conversation is supposed to go, though.
Right. Yeah. Right. But to roll it back into the Bad Batch, you said within 5 years. We don't necessarily know, because the season 1 of the Bad Batch happened at the start, like right at Order 66.
Right.
So this could be within that 5 years.
Oh, it is.
And they are hunting them down, and these Axis Vibo or whatever the hell their names were again, they were hunting down the Jedi because they got an order to bounty hunt find a Jedi and bring them back to me, and I'll pay a king's ransom so I can try to do my tests on them. So this could be part of them helping to hunt down, just like the Inquisitors. There's an all call out to all sides of the shady universe, the black market. Find as many as you can, either kill them or bring them back so we can do tests on them.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm down with that. Like I say, I'm not. I joke when I say, "Did any Jedi die?" But the
No,
thing
it's
is,
true though.
it does seem like
Yeah.
there are a lot of Jedi still floating around the galaxy, and they become, instead of becoming something that, you know what? Here's the thing: one of the reasons the dark times should be the dark times is there are no Jedi to maintain peace and order in the galaxy, to be peacekeepers, and there should be moments where we see people that the only hope they would have is were there still Jedi that were able to help them, and it needs to be a time of stark hopelessness. And if Andor got nothing else right, it got that right. You know what I mean? There were many, many hopeless situations in Andor that he got out of by the skin of his teeth. And I think that the absence of the Jedi adds to the weight of that hopelessness, so that as the light breaks, as the Death Star explodes in Star Wars, there is a new hope. And the whispers of, well, he was with a Jedi before he blew up the Death Star. This guy might be the real deal. He's carrying a lightsaber on his belt. What is happening here with this guy? And so now the spark of hope has begun to turn into a raging fire, and it's built around the idea that the Jedi are returning. And if part of what's happening in the background of the Bad Batch is the wiping out of them, that's great. But I just feel like, by the time you get to Kanan should have been really the last, like he truly should have. There should have been no need for Inquisitors, outside of Vader still knowing Obi-Wan's out there, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But that brings me to a whole different topic. Why did Obi-Wan get to beat the snot out of Vader in Obi-Wan? Should Obi-Wan not have just escaped by the skin of his teeth, so that when he shows up on the Death Star, Vader says, "You should not have come back"? When Vader says, "You should not have come back," Obi-Wan says, "You shouldn't have stood here waiting on me, because remember what I did to you the last two times we went at."
Yeah.
Agree.
There I go again. I'm sorry. Let me just
No, you go play with Galactus or whatever.
Let me get Galactus or out here. Let me get on brand.
No, we're good.
On brand.
Oh, that's pretty.
Is that Black Series Mando? Love him.
Yeah, that is a great one. I've got that one. And I also took it out of the box and have it out on a shelf somewhere. It's nice.
I'm an opener all the way.
Toys.
Okay, we won't talk about toys.
Sorry, Brent.
We won't talk. DDoc, is there, outside of all the conversations we've had, is there another topic you want to hit this evening that we haven't hit?
I do have the one loaded one that's going around on the internet.
Don't do it, DDoc.
Nope. Okay.
Well, no, it's Ray.
Oh, well, we can talk about that one.
Yes.
About that one.
Yes. No, it's not. It is controversial, but yeah, there's just a lot of talk that I've seen people saying they're hearing the inner workings of Disney. The next movie they're going to be making Ray is going to be the main character. And then today you see the quote from Daisy Ridley saying, she'd absolutely play that character again. Like it, I loved my crew that I worked with. I would do it again. So I don't know. I think the next Star Wars movie we get in theaters, Rey is going to be the main character of it. I'll say it seems like things are going that way, which is interesting to
me.
We
have a Star Wars celebration coming up in April, first week of April in London. Are you
going?
Yeah, no, thanks. If Star Wars or Lucasfilm wanted to pay, sure, I'd go. But no. But I mean, is any of this just chatter to get people even more excited? I mean, heck, I don't know. They sold the thing out. I'm sure they've sold it out. As a matter of fact, they came out with some extra tickets because they had sold everything out. But look, Alfie said it. He's not sure that Rey being the lead of the next Star Wars movie would follow along the lines of the great unifier of the Mandalorian that we're talking about. I liked the Rey character. I thought she did a fine job. I think Daisy Ridley did a great job. But I don't know. I mean, it doesn't spark enough maybe it sparks a lot of younger people. I don't know. I'm 51. I'm too old. Maybe that doesn't do anything for me, but I don't know. Do you guys think that's the right path to go? Daisy Ridley and a Jedi Academy at post Rise of
I think
Skywalker?
I think as much as we sit here and talk about it, if you put Star Wars on it and you sell it right, people will go. Now they may not like it afterwards, but people will go.
Okay.
Well, as Daisy has come out and said she'd be glad to play Rey again, Adam Driver has also come out and said, I want to forget that I was ever in those movies, and I wish everyone else would too. He is not as well pleased with his time there as Daisy was. When it comes to
neither is John Boyega.
I mean, is it not a mirror of Harrison Ford and like Mark Hamill, and isn't there some kind of like poetic mirroring of that? Because wasn't Harrison Ford essentially the Kylo Ren? The those movies, I don't care, like these people are nuts because it's just a character to me kind of a thing. Like that was more or less his perception of it for a number of years, and this is me coming from I'm a peripheral fan from all of that stuff. But
I don't know that Harrison Ford had crazy fans like threaten his wife and do some of the things that Raylos did when it came to Adam Driver. And there was some really dark stuff that went on with fandom in him.
There's a lot of dark stuff that went on with the sequels and fandom. Like bottom line, like let's just like, that is what it is. And yeah, I get it. Like they also made the movies in the 1980s and way before there was any social media, right? But I can almost guarantee you there would have been some hatred and that type of stuff. But he did get together with the love, right? Like it wasn't like it wasn't a Romeo and Juliet situation where they didn't get there.
But you also didn't have Darth Vader hooking up with some, Mon Mothma at the end of things. Like there was no love connection between the I don't want to litigate the sequels. I just want to say that when you talk about her not being the unifying force that that Mandalorian was, a Rey story might not be that. I don't think that Lucasfilm cares about that, if I'm being honest. I don't think Lucasfilm cares about unifying fandom. I genuinely believe that there's a section of people, employees at Lucasfilm, that want fans like myself and people my age to go away. I really do. I think that they throw us a bone every now and again to keep getting our money. I really believe this. And I think that if they could, they feel like that if they could have the fans who 100% embrace the sequel trilogy and everything for whatever reason, then that's the group of people they want. They don't want to have any criticism or any pushback on anything that has to do with that. I like the character of Rey, and I think that all of the characters of the sequel trilogy were very undercut in their development and who they are and and the potential for those characters to be something amazing and iconic for the rest of history by one man's selfish idea of what he wanted his story to be, and by Lucasfilm's unwillingness to have an outline of where the story should go from the get-go, and their just a apparent desire to just do away with everything that Lucas and Michael Arndt had done to get ready, to prepare the sequel trilogy. And so I think that I don't know who Rian Johnson, like who fell in love with him at Lucasfilm or what he did, but when they saw what he did with his movie and it's not, I'll just take one simple point. In Force Awakens, Finn frees Poe because he needs a pilot. 2 days later, in The Last Jedi, Finn is piloting the ship that he and Rose are on. What do you mean you need a pilot? If you can do this, you could have done that. It's that kind of discontinuity that can't be explained away by saying, well, this is mythological storytelling. No, you wanted to pick up where the other movie left off, and you didn't pay attention, and you wanted to do things your way, and you undercut real good character development that had been set up. You took everything that was set up, and in the name of subverting expectations, you tore it all down because you wanted to do Star Wars your way. And so now when we talk about getting a Rey story or a Rey movie, okay, great. I thought the Skywalker saga was over. She's Rey Skywalker now. So the Skywalker saga continues.
That's why she
Yowza.
should have. That's why she should have said, "I'm Rey," and just leave it at Rey.
Yeah, just Rey.
And if she would have stayed at just Rey, this whole conversation doesn't have the same merit because you're right, 100%. Just stay Rey, and then you would have been fine because you don't want to have a destiny. You don't want to be tied to the past that you were tied to. You just want to be Rey and carve your own new path.
Yep.
Wow.
And then you open up the door for Rey to have an actual hero's journey. So because I'll be honest with you, she didn't really have that in any of those things. You can try to pick and choose what may have been, but they were so concerned with is Kylo bad or good? Is she going to bring Kylo back from the dark side? Are we going to do another redemption arc? Are we going to do this? Who is Rey? Who is this? We were so concerned with identity. And I think even they were to an extent. We never got to see the journey. And even her at the end of The Force Awakens was the beginning of what should have been her hero's journey, and I don't know, I think they kind of messed up that classic formula a little bit. So I think we could have a really good hero's journey. I think you have a Rey who's seen the horrors of war and what she used to dream about and all. Now she's on Tatooine, just moisture farming, having the time of her life, and some threat of the galaxy shows up and they know to get in touch with Rey. And so by God, Poe's the one who goes and gets her, maybe, or something. And she doesn't want to do it. I can't, this is not my fight. I'm only half trained. I can't do all this. Poe, this is not what I want anymore. And he's like, but you have to, because the galaxy's in danger because of da-da-da-da-da-da. And there's no Palpatine. There's no Vader. There's no nothing. It's a whole new threat. Maybe it's the Yuuzhan Vong. I don't know. But something, different. I'd check it out. I'd give it a glance. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
I'm sold.
It's got Star Wars on it. I'd check it out.
I'm a big believer that the next one needs to have not an empire, not a first order, but some outside threat. I don't think you need to rehash another Hux or Tarkin or whatever. Give me something different to oppose.
I'd do a Rey show that's not necessarily serialized. That's just almost like Kung Fu in the Star Wars galaxy, where she's going from planet to planet, righting wrongs. Dude, I've joked before about doing Star Wars A-Team. Rey and Poe and Finn. Just galaxy hopping, going from place to place, and doing and fixing things that need to be fixed. And you don't have to have it all connected into some big story arc at the end. It's just adventure. It's just an adventure show that's a throwback to like what we used to love in the 70s and 80s.
And I think everybody wants that, because if you talk, the people that I talk to, because I will tell you that I defend the sequels before I defend the prequels. I like the sequels more than I like the prequels. I know. You can give me that. I know, Steve.
I'm just looking at your beard, and I find that hard to believe.
I'm just telling you. And part of what I can get almost everyone that talks about it, even when they start getting mad, they get mad about the director. They get mad about the direction. They do not get mad about the characters.
Absolutely.
Everybody to a T will sit there and tell you, oh, they got done wrong because of all this other stuff, right?
Absolutely.
All of this other stuff is what the problem is. It wasn't necessarily, the story was a little weak, yada, 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 but they're cool with Kylo. They're cool with Rey. They're cool with Poe. They enjoyed the characters that were presented to them. Hell, I think Phasma got done dirty too.
Oh.
She could.
Mm-hmm.
She could have been so much cooler, right? There was so much potential with the characters that you could do those types of shows. But so what I was going to go back to is the character piece of it. She could carry a new movie franchise. Those characters could carry it forward. I really wish she would have said, I'm Rey. Rey who? I'm Rey. And then left it at Rey.
Yeah. Or if she just said, I'm Rey Palpatine.
Hell no.
That's who I am. I'm Rey Palpatine.
Did
who
you
cares?
hear me, DDoc? She wanted to get rid of her past because she doesn't want to be connected to him. She doesn't like the fact that she's connected to him. She likes the fact that she wants to be a Skywalker, but she also this thing would be like, I'm carving my own path. This would be that strong, independent, powerful woman that's carving her own path if she would have just said Rey.
Yeah.
That's true, but she did. I feel like I saw her talking in an interview saying like, no matter who your parents are, whatever, it's like you're your own person. So it's like, to me, it's like you could have said, yeah, I'm Rey Palpatine, but I'm a good person. Like, it has nothing to do with my family, whatever. I'm Rey Palpatine, whatever. It doesn't bother me that she calls herself Rey Skywalker as much as it does as other people online. That causes a lot of controversy.
It does, but it also goes to what Steve says. If you pick up on this, you said the Skywalker saga is over. If you pick up with Rey as your main character, you're picking up with the Skywalker.
It's still the Skywalker saga.
I think
it's a mess.
I love the idea of her standing there talking to that old woman, and she says, "Who are you?" And she says, "Rey." And the woman says, "Rey who?" And she looks and sees Luke and Leia there.
Yep. Yeah, you can still have all of that.
And they both smiling, and she looks back and says, "Just Rey." And then look back to Luke and Leia, and they're happy with that. They're so, they're overjoyed with the fact that she's her own person, that she's herself, and now she can carry on their legacy without the burden of that name. And Brent, you're absolutely right. As those characters were presented, the concept of a stormtrooper who turned away from the Empire, a girl who came out of nowhere to be a great hero in the galaxy, a rebel pilot who has to learn that it's not all about him, and all under the umbrella of these people who've come before, becoming the archetypes of the new story. Even Kylo Ren, the concept of Kylo, of I want to be Darth Vader, but I can't, but I'm not, and his anger building and all of that building to where he becomes scarred, he becomes all this stuff. I really think Kylo Ren should not have been redeemed. That's neither here nor there. But the way as those characters were presented, they were set up to be interesting and in depth and deep and have some great motivation moving forward. And it got ruined. I'm sorry, it did. It got messed up. And so would I like to spend some time with Rey in the right hands, in the right writer of that character? I think spending more time with Rey could be a blast for sure.
Well, there we go. We went 20 minutes on your question there, DDoc, and you know what? It was well worth it because we got some great opinions on that, and different things you guys have said have sold me on different things. I mean, I was like, can she? But you know what? If done the right way, the stories that you guys are giving and the feedback, I could see that. And like you guys said, I liked Rey. I liked the character, and I liked Daisy Ridley. I've watched other movies with her in it just because she played Rey in Star Wars. So I mean, I would go watch it if done the right way. So we've been going for 2 hours, which is not usual for us, but we do it because we have the Geek Out Loud King who
because Steve doesn't know how to shut his mouth.
No,
Steve goes for like
do an
4
hour show. That's
right.
Nothing.
He goes I go for 4.
That's true.
Oh gosh. Brent, you came in last. Any thoughts to close up the show before we break away here on Rule the Galaxy?
Bad Batch was fun to watch. It was entertaining. It brought in the Kashyyyk and the Wookiees, and I am a large hairy man, so I love me the Wookiees. And from that, I enjoyed it. I wasn't sure if that was the same individual from the Clone Wars. I'm glad to see that he did survive Order 66, even though he probably shouldn't have, as we've talked about. But he was a youngling at the time. He wasn't necessarily embedded with a clone unit to be able to kill him, so that could have been a reason why he survived. I kind of want to see where the Bad Batch goes. Like, it is definitely a adventure of the week show. It is not necessarily a connected storyline type, plot driven storyline show that you were hoping it would be this season. It seems to be Wizard after Gee Whiz and let's have some fun type stuff. But they were bad. They did show some bad batchery. I enjoy anytime that Mr. Glosson is on, and I like the fact that I had made him take his sunglasses off, so we actually got to see the real Steve Glosson at this moment. his future is bright, so he has to wear shades.
That's
but no,
right.
thank you, sir, for coming on to Rule the Galaxy. It's always a pleasure when you're around.
Well, thanks for having me.
DDoc, how about you?
Yeah, kind of the same as Brent said. I mean, I'm enjoying Bad Batch. It's really the first Star Wars show where premiere night comes and I get my little guy and I'm like, all right, new episode of Bad Batch is on. And it's like we're riding in this one together, and it's like that's why it's kind of special to me, is to be watching it with him. It's fun. So some of the episodes that I might not enjoy as much, where there might not be as much going on, I enjoy that he's enjoying it. So he's building his this kid already, he retains things like crazy. Like he does not have my brain. I'll say that. He has his mother's brain. He has my nerdism with his mom's memory. So it's like, I'm just like, how do you know all of this? Whatever. But yeah, also Steve, it's always great to have you on. I mean, you make me love Luke Skywalker like 10 times more every time I hear you talk about him. You find different layers of Star Wars and meaning to the storytelling, and it's fun to hear you talk about it. So it's always great to have you on.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Hey, I wouldn't have him on if he wasn't great, and he is. And so Steve, thanks to you. Thanks for being on again. Any closing thoughts? Any thoughts that you have on things we didn't touch on or anything like that before we break away?
I'll just say it again. I like the way you guys do things. I like the differing viewpoints, and I like the fact that even when we're arguing, no one's really mad. And I think that's a great staple of a great show with friends working together to do something. And I hope Rule the Galaxy is around for a long time. But I also would hope people would check out Geek Out Loud. And if perchance,
you should say that.
If perchance anyone's out there that knows of a good custom way to do Marvel Legends Doc Ock arms that does not involve a USB reading lamp, cutting the ends off and using the bendy stuff to drill in and put. Like, I don't know, if you know someone that's got a good 3D printed bendy arm Doc Ock arms, let me know. Reach out to me, geekoutonline@gmail.com. Hit me up, because I'm looking for some good bendy Doc Ock arms.
Well, we will put the word out. You guys listen, get with Steve, right?
The Doc Ock signal has been lifted.
That's
Look,
right.
it's a great figure, man. But these things they're all static and they don't bend right. And you just
I'm gonna go sidetrack real quick. Steve, do you know that the game that I talked about, the Legions game?
Yes.
They have a Marvel Crisis Protocol game, and Doc Ock is one of the figures you get in the base set.
Sweet.
You get Red Skull, Doc Ock, Bone Crusher, and Ultron.
Do you have to paint those figures?
Yep, they're painted. You got to glue them and paint them.
Yeah. See, how big are they?
They're about double the size of the Legion, so about 2.5 inches. Is like Captain America's about 2.5 inches. So they're a little bit easier to paint because they're bigger.
Okay. See, I've got these guys that are Hero Clicks from the old Hero Clicks game.
They're probably double the size of that.
Okay, and because I wanted some of these to like pose with my Galactus, so he looks really big.
Wow, so that's a good call on that. Yeah. Not that he's not huge already. Brent, thank you for showing up, and I know you had a hectic couple days, and again, prayers to your family, and I'm so glad your son's able to get back home. So
we broke out of the hospital, and like I say always, it's great to escape. Part of it is the escape the regular normal stress of the life and talk about something that's a galaxy far, far away.
Well, good. I'm glad you could do that. We appreciate it. DDoc, you know your mission. Get us prepared for episode 200. Go find us everything we can do to do a live show for 200. Steve, I'll probably call you for hopping on for 15 or 20 minutes on show 200. So be prepared.
15 or 20 minutes, my butt. I'll be here the whole time,
But look, I mean, again, I said at the beginning of the show, I'll say it now. Steve is one of those guys that I found it so entertaining and just so mesmerizing to listen to his show years ago that I told Joey when he was ready to do this, I was like, well, these guys are the kind of guys that I want our show to be like. And for you to take the time, for not knowing me from Adam, just like Scott has done, like Adam Bray has done, Mark Newbold has done, to take the time to come and be a part of our show means a ton. And we really appreciate you. And I just hope our paths cross, like we actually get to hang out somewhere, meet, relax, just have some fun. Maybe it's in the hot tub, maybe it's not, I don't know. But I can't wait. If you want, the door's open for me. I'll hop in the hot tub whenever you want. But thanks again. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it, guys.
No problem, guys. Hey, it was a long show. Thanks everybody for hopping on. I know we had a long toy talk early. So if you didn't like that, fast forward till right now when we're talking about the end of the show. But until next week, you know where to track us down. Rule the galaxy all over the place. May the force be with you.